Welcome in, everybody, for a special Garbage Time Fantasy Football Presents the MMA podcast. Got a huge UFC fight card coming up, so we decided we would do a show. So here we go. All right, Casey, so what do you think? Card of the year? Do you think it's going to live up to the hype? Can you hear me? All right, well, Casey didn't pay his internet bill. So I will get us started while he bats out. So we have a huge main card here. We have Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles, Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez. Supposed to be Frankie Edgar's last fight. Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. Our co-main, Weili Esparza versus Zhang Weili. And then, of course, the main event that everyone knows about, Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. Also got some really interesting undercard fights. Dominic Reyes making his return. Andre Petroski on a 3-fight winning streak since losing in the Ultimate Fighter. And then Meatball Molly is facing a heavy favorite in Erin Blanchfield. So it will be interesting to see if she keeps her winning streak going. So I will give my thoughts on that undercard while we're waiting for Casey to come back. I think Erin Blanchard is going to be too much for Molly. I'm a huge fan of Molly, but she was struggling a lot before her 3-fight win streak that she just went on. And Casey is back with us. Are you all good now?
I'm all good. What's up?
Okay. So I was just going through, there was a couple of undercard fights that I just wanted to touch on real quick, okay? We won't do a full review, but one of the big ones. So we have Meatball Molly. She's facing a heavy favorite, Erin Blanchfield. Do you think the Molly hype train keeps going, or do you think it finally gets derailed against Erin Blanchfield?
I think it could keep on.
You think you're giving it to Molly?
Oh yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm leaning Blanchfield actually. Like I said, Molly has had 3 fights recently where she's looked really good. But she has had issues with getting taken down. It wasn't that long ago. She got taken down 5 times by Talia Santos, got taken down 7 times by another opponent. So if Blanchfield can get her to the ground, it could be a long night. So I'm gonna go Blanchfield here. Another undercard highlight: we have Andre Petroski on a 3-fight winning streak with the UFC, 1 KO and 2 submissions since he lost on the Ultimate Fighter. Do you think he keeps his winning streak alive?
If he can keep that wrestling game up, sure. I think he can possibly one out.
All right. And the last undercard I wanted to touch on really quick: Dominic Reyes is making his return. Was on a pretty tough skid for a little bit there. Do you think that's the comeback that he's hoping for? Did you freeze again? Okay. I think Casey froze again. Okay, well, I will go. I think this is a perfect fight for Dominic Reyes to come back for. I do think he will win this one. He He's a pretty heavy favorite at about -200, depending on where you're at. Ryan Spann hasn't looked crazy great. He went Sam Alvey split decision, which this late in Sam Alvey's career, you probably shouldn't be going split decision versus the guy. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm having some audio issue over here. So
Okay. Dominic Reyes' return. What do you think?
who's he returning against again? Let's see here.
Ryan Spann.
Ryan Spann. What do we know more about Ryan Spann?
All right, that's okay. We can skip over that one if you don't know Spann very well. So let's jump right into the first fight of the undercard. We have Dan Hooker, who's been having a little bit of a rough go of late. -155 favorite versus Claudio Puelles. What are your thoughts on this one?
Really? -155. I don't know. Dan Hooker has been on a decline lately. He's lost past two fights, both by early stoppage. One was a TKO. I believe it was against Allen. Yeah, it was against Allen. He finished TKO in the first round, and then the new champ Makhachev submitted him in the first round as well. So he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He hasn't seemed like the Dan Hooker that I used to know. Anyways, came into the UFC, he was doing great, but for some reason he's just not himself right now. So I don't know. This might be a bounce back fight. I will give this one to Dan Hooker.
All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna go Dan Hooker as well. He has had a rough go, kind of like you mentioned, starting with his first loss against Poirier. He has since lost 4 of the last 5, 3 of them being in the first round. But it's worth noting that 3 of those losses were versus top lightweights. He lost to Poirier, he lost to Chandler, and then he lost to Islam, who is now the current champ of the division. That fourth loss was a weird one where he chose to drop down to featherweight, which I don't think turned out to be a great decision. It's probably just too light of a weight for him. Claudio, on the other hand, so he's won all 5 of his fights for the UFC since joining in 2018. So he's on a streak. Most recently beat Clay Guida, who's kind of at the tail end of his career. But I think Hooker is a huge step up in competition for him. Hooker has another 3 teammates that are also on this card, so he's going to be even more motivated to win. So, yeah, I'm taking Dan Hooker here. The next fight we have is Frankie Edgar's retirement fight. Frankie Edgar, so this will be his last fight. So he is coming in at +190 underdog versus Chris Gutierrez at -230 favorite. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so like you said, retirement fight. These kinds of fights can go either way. Either the person goes out there and they put it all on one last time, or they just kind of say, eh, and they end up losing. So Frankie Edgar's up there in age. He's been on the decline, obviously. I really don't know how he's going to come out with this fight as far as mindset going into it, but I'm going to go with Gutierrez on this one.
Yep. So I'm the same. I'm going Gutierrez. It always makes me nervous when I hear that fighters announcing prior that's going to be their last fight. They're heading into retirement. It's usually you don't know if they're mentally going to be there. Edgar's also 1-4 in his last 5. He's coming off back-to-back KO losses. His last win was in 2020, split decision versus Pedro Munoz. And I think Frankie Edgar, tried to step down in competition for his last one, but Gutierrez he's on a solid streak since losing his debut. He's on 6-0-1. has some momentum heading in here. He got a KO back in March. So yeah, I'm taking Gutierrez here as well for this bantamweight fight. So next up, we have the fight that I'm actually most excited for. We have Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. Dustin Poirier, pretty big favorite at -230, and Michael Chandler, the underdog at +190. So we know you're a big Dustin Poirier fan, but where are you at on this one?
Oh yeah, big fan of both, honestly. So it doesn't really matter to me one wins, but I think that Dustin's gonna pull this one off, and here's a couple reasons why. Look at Michael Chandler. He's kind of similar style fighter as Justin G, which he likes to stand in front of you, and he just likes to stay down and duke it out. He's kind of more of a brawler styled fighter. And we also Dustin did to Justin Gaethje when those fought. And then the second reason is Chandler is known for kind of gassing out at certain points of the fight. The type of fighter where he's either going to win somebody out in the first round and a half, or he's going to start to gas out, and he'll either lose by decision or knocked out himself. So I think that Dustin is a technical fighter. He likes to stand and bang, but he's a little more technical about it. So I'm him.
So are you leaning Poirier?
I am. Yep.
Yeah. So pretty much a lot of what you said. I mean, if this is anything like what Chandler and Gaethje was, Poirier wins. There's no doubt. The superior striker. I mean, Poirier made pretty easy work of Gaethje when Gaethje tried to stand and bang with him. And we also, like you mentioned, we've seen Chandler fight in the UFC. He gets hit a lot. He gasses out usually after the first round, because he goes so hard. I think the big question is Chandler does have wrestling ability. Do we think he starts to want to win fights and start to use that a little bit, or do we still think he's going to just be putting on the best show he can and he's going to want to stand and bang? Because if he's willing to wrestle, I think this fight gets a lot closer. But if he's just going to try to stand and bang, then Dustin Poirier is going to win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at what happened to Dustin when he fought Oliveira, he's obviously prone to being submitted. He doesn't have the best ground game because he's primarily a striker. If Chandler were to try and take advantage of that, his wrestling background, I think that would be smart on his part.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Poirier, but if you see Chandler come out and start wrestling, cash out your bet that you had on Poirier because it's gonna get a lot closer and you'll probably get better odds after that first round. So next up we have the co-main event. We have Carlos Esparza at an insane underdog for the current title holder at +270 versus Zhang Weili at -340 favorite. I think Weili finishes her easily. She's a stronger striker. She's worked on her ground game with Henry Cejudo a lot. I thought she won the fight versus Thud Rose. Esparza's coming off a pretty unimpressive title fight win that some people didn't have her winning. Other people didn't know how to store it. Thought that neither one should win. So I'm putting Weili down for the finish here.
Yeah, I mean, Weili has a good resume, even though she did lose against Thug Rose. Thug Rose is a slouch. And if you're in close fights with someone like her, obviously you're pretty skilled yourself. So I think that she's just a notch up on that skill level. And I'll agree there. I think she will take this one.
All right. And then finally, the main event of the night, a fight that everyone's had their eyes on. We have Israel Adesanya at -210 favorite versus Alex Pereira at +175. this fight might end up being a little bit closer on the odds when the fight night gets here. I definitely think it's probably one of the fights that we've seen the closest gap between Izzy and an opponent. What are your thoughts on this one? Who are you taking?
I think this is going to be a great fight. I think it's probably the most evenly matched fighter that Izzy's faced to the point. And I know he doesn't like it being brought up, but he did get knocked out by Alex Pereira back in 2017. And I don't know, maybe that's going to weigh in the back of his mind a little bit. He can sit there and say that it doesn't, but the matter is he's been knocked out by him before. He's trying to say, well, that's boxing gloves, bigger gloves, and these are small gloves. Well, yeah, if he was able to knock Izzy out in bigger gloves, then certainly capable of doing it with smaller ones. So I don't know what kind of I don't know. So I would really love to see Alex Pereira win this fight. So
are you taking Pereira?
I will. Yes, I will say Pereira.
All right. I'm hesitant. I almost feel this is like a trap fight where they announce him as the next big thing, and then he gets in there and it's just not close. But I do think this will be close. I think my biggest hang-up is the Israel Adesanya that Alex Pereira beat back in 2017 is not the Israel Adesanya that we have in the UFC here in 2022. You look back on some of his previous fights, where he had to go to war with Kevin Gastelum to win that fight. Whereas now you just see him, he's kind of cruising through guys. He's beaten Robert Whittaker twice, beat Marvin Vettori twice. Got a split decision win on Marvin Vettori the first time in back in 2018, but then beat him pretty convincingly this upcoming time. So I don't think, it definitely applies, but I just don't think that Israel Adesanya now is comparable. Although I love this storyline. It is amazing. Like you couldn't.
It's definitely a marketable storyline, marketable fight, sure. If they don't break records on this card, then I don't know what you're going to break with.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go Izzy. I'm gonna take Israel Adesanya here. I think he's just a better fighter now than what Pereira had but Pereira could do it. It's possible, but I'm gonna take Izzy. So we cruise through these pretty quick. So let's go back over one more time. So I want us to. So we kind of picked our winners, but I want to go winner and then method. You don't have to be super specific about round, but I want winner and method. So Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. What are you saying?
I'm saying win by decision.
All right. I'm gonna say he's gonna finish him. I want him to finish him. I think he's gonna be super motivated. He's been having a really rough go. His teammates are on the card. He's gonna be fired up. So I'll go Dan Hooker by KO TKO. Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez.
I think this is KO.
Yeah. I say KO. Frankie Edgar. He's a legend, but his last fights have not been good. The chin has definitely gotten weak in there. So I'll go Gutierrez by TKO KO. Poirier and Chandler. No way this fight doesn't end with a KO, right?
Well, with that about the Chandler fight too, but then it went to decision. So
that's true. That is true.
I think we see another great fight. That's for sure. But I'm picking Dust by. I'm gonna say knockout.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'll go Poirier by KO TKO again. I'm going to be wrong because I think I'm going to pit that for all these fights, and there's no way that we have 5 straight knockouts, but I'm going with it. Carlos Esparza and Zhang Weili.
I'll go TKO for Weili.
Yep, I'm the same. TKO for Weili. Izzy versus Alex Pereira. I am going to say Izzy by decision. I don't think Izzy knocks him out. I really don't. And I do think if Pereira were to beat him, it would have to be by KO. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I'm holding on to that one hope that Izzy gets knocked up by Pereira. So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Alex Pereira is gonna the one person that catches him with that one hit.
Sends him lights out.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are our UFC 281 predictions. Hopefully we might have some episodes in the future. If we get back into it a little bit, we'll have a lot of big cards coming up. So go ahead and feel free to let us know how we did. And always feel free for anything fantasy football related, hop over to our Garbage Time Fantasy Football podcast. They are doing an episode tonight. They do 2 or 3 a week, cover all your fantasy football topics, stardom, sit-ems, recaps, injury updates, all the good stuff. So thanks for watching.